The coffee cup trembled in Elena's hand as she pushed open the bookstore door. 25 years. A failed marriage. A lifetime of what-ifs. And there, behind the counter, arranging books with those same graceful hands that once braided Elena's hair in their tiny dorm room, stood Sarah Chen. Their eyes met. The world stopped, and Elena knew some doors weren't meant to stay closed forever. Elena hadn't meant to walk into second chapter books. She'd been wandering her old college town aimlessly, letting muscle memory guide her through streets that held ghosts of a younger, more hopeful version of herself. The divorce papers were barely dry. Her kids were scattered across the country, living their own lives, and at 52, she felt like a stranger in her own skin. The bookstore's warm lighting drew her in from the November chill. She was reaching for her architecture journal when she heard it, a laugh she'd recognize anywhere, even after a quarter century. Elena Martinez. "Oh my God, is that really you?" Sarah Chen stood frozen behind the counter, a stack of hardcovers clutched to her chest like armor. She looked different, silver threading through her dark hair, laugh lines around her eyes, but fundamentally the same. That same gentle smile. Those same intelligent eyes that had once studied Elena across their shared dorm room. Sarah. The name came out as barely a whisper. They stared at each other for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. The other customers faded into background noise. 25 years collapsed into nothing. I own this place now," Sarah said, setting down the books with shaking hands. "Opened it 5 years ago after my divorce." "You're divorced too?" "3 years now." Sarah's smile was wry. Turns out marrying someone because it's what you're supposed to do doesn't guarantee happiness. Something in her tone, in the way her eyes held Elena's, made Elena's heart race in a way it hadn't in decades. "Maybe ever. Do you have time for coffee?" Elena asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Sarah's answering smile was sunrise breaking through clouds. "For you? Always." They fell into conversation as easily as breathing, sitting in the bookstore's cafe corner as the afternoon light grew golden. Sarah's daughter was in medical school. Elena's son was teaching in Japan, her daughter working in San Francisco. They compared notes on emptiness, on the strange freedom of reclaiming themselves after decades of being Hmong. "Do you remember that night sophomore year?" Sarah asked suddenly, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "When we stayed up until dawn talking about our dreams?" Elena remembered. How could she forget? They'd been curled up on Sarah's narrow dorm bed, close enough that Elena could feel the warmth radiating from Sarah's body. She'd wanted so badly to reach out, to touch, to cross that invisible line between friendship and something more. "You were going to design sustainable housing," Sarah continued, her voice soft with memory. "Buildings that would change how people lived. And you were going to open a bookstore that was also a community space, somewhere people could gather and feel less alone." Elena met Sarah's eyes. "You did it." "So did you. I looked you up online. Your firm's work is incredible." They both achieved their dreams, Elena thought. Everything except the one thing that had mattered most, the thing they'd both been too afraid to name. "Sarah," Elena began, her heart pounding. "That night, I wanted to tell you something I was too scared to say." Sarah set down her cup carefully. "I know. I wanted to hear it. I wanted—" She took a shaky breath. "I wanted to say it too." The admission hung between them, decades of unspoken longing finally given voice. "We were so young," Sarah whispered, "so scared of what it meant. And now?" Elena's voice was barely audible. Sarah reached across the table, her fingers brushing Elena's. "Now we're old enough to know better than to waste second chances." Their first real date felt both thrilling and terrifying. Elena picked Sarah up at her cottage-style home. her palms sweating like a teenager's. She'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on dark jeans and a burgundy sweater. Sarah had once said brought out her eyes, a compliment from 25 years ago that Elena had never forgotten. "You look beautiful," Sarah said, answering the door in a flowing emerald dress that made Elena's breath catch. They drove to a restaurant the next town over, both grateful for the anonymity. Neither was ashamed, but they weren't ready for their college town's gossip mill either. This was too precious, too new dot over wine and pasta. They talked about everything they'd missed. Sarah's difficult marriage to a man who'd loved her but never truly seen her. Elena's slow realization that she'd been living someone else's life. The loneliness of pretending. The grief of lost time. "My daughter knows I'm bisexual," Sarah shared. "I told her after the divorce. She was wonderful about it." She paused, swirling her wine. "My ex-husband ... Less so. He thinks it's why our marriage failed, was it?" Elena asked gently. "Partly. But mostly it failed because I was never fully present. Part of me was always somewhere else." "With someone else?" Sarah's eyes locked on Elena's. "With you." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "I told my kids I'm exploring who I really am." They're supportive, but confused. They thought they knew me. She laughed bitterly. "I thought I knew me." Sarah reached across the table, lacing their fingers together. The touch sent electricity through Elena's entire body. "Maybe we're not starting over. Maybe we're finally starting." That night, standing on Sarah's porch, Elena leaned in for their first kiss. 25 years of wondering, of dreaming, of denying, all of it dissolved in the soft press of Sarah's lips against hers. "Stay," Sarah whispered. "Just for coffee? Just to talk more?" They both knew it was more than that. And for the first time in decades, Elena said yes to what she really wanted. The next few months were a revelation. Elena and Sarah moved carefully at first, learning each other as the women they'd become rather than the girls they'd been. They discovered shared tastes in music, a mutual love of hiking, and a comfortable domesticity that felt both new and ancient, but reality had sharp edges. Sarah's ex-husband made pointed comments when dropping by the bookstore. Elena's son voiced concern about her rushing into something. Old college friends who'd known them both expressed surprise, curiosity, sometimes judgment. "Does it bother you?" Elena asked one evening as they cooked dinner together in Sarah's kitchen, moving around each other with practiced ease. "What people think?" Sarah paused, knife hovering over the cutting board. "It bothers me that we lost 25 years because of what people thought, or what we thought people would think." She set down the knife and turned to Elena. "I spent half my life being what everyone expected. Being the good daughter, the dutiful wife, the perfect mother. And I love my daughter more than anything. She's the best thing that came from that life. But I'm done apologizing for wanting to be happy." Elena pulled Sarah into her arms, breathing in the jasmine scent of her hair. "My therapist asked me last week if I felt like I was being selfish. Leaving my marriage, moving here, starting something new with you. What did you say?" I said maybe I've earned the right to be a little selfish. That maybe choosing myself isn't the same as abandoning everyone else. Elena pulled back to meet Sarah's eyes. "My kids are grown. They have their own lives. Is it so wrong to finally build mine?" "Not wrong," Sarah said firmly. "Necessary." They kissed then, slow and deep. And Elena felt something settle in her chest, something that felt like coming home. Later, curled together on the couch, Sarah asked the question that had been hovering between them. "What do we tell people? How do we define this?" Elena considered. At 52, she wasn't interested in labels that didn't fit. "The truth. That you're the person I should have been brave enough to choose 25 years ago. That I'm choosing you now. that it's nobody's business but ours whether that makes me bisexual, lesbian, or just someone who fell in love with exactly the right person. Sarah's smile was radiant. I can work with that. 6 months after that first reunion, Elena stood in Sarah's bookstore, their bookstore now, since Elena had invested in expanding the space watching Sarah lead a book club discussion. The late afternoon sun caught the silver in Sarah's hair, and Elena felt that now familiar flutter in her chest. They'd learned that second chances didn't erase first chances, the children they loved, the lives they'd built, the people they'd been. But they'd also learned that it's never too late to choose happiness, to choose authenticity, to choose love. Sarah caught Elena's eye across the room and smiled, that private smile that was just for her. Tonight they'd go home to the house they now shared and make dinner and talk about their days and fall asleep in each other's arms. Tomorrow and the day after and all the days that followed, they'd keep choosing each other, because some stories deserve a second chapter and some loves are worth the wait. Your turn. What's your second chapter? Have you been living for everyone else? Are you ready to reclaim your authentic self? Whether you're exploring your sexuality later in life, rebuilding after divorce, or simply questioning the path you're on, know that it's never too late to start your second chapter. Join our community of women who chose themselves. Share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more midlife love stories that celebrate second chances. Download our free guide, Rediscovering Yourself at Midlife. Your happiness isn't selfish. It's essential. What will your second chapter look like? The coffee cup trembled in Elena's hand as she pushed open the bookstore door. 25 years. A failed marriage. A lifetime of what-ifs. And there, behind the counter, arranging books with those same graceful hands that once braided Elena's hair in their tiny dorm room, stood Sarah Chen. Their eyes met. The world stopped, and Elena knew some doors weren't meant to stay closed forever.